Ready for a deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. You shared Pastor Jerry Eze's YouTube video with us, and
And the Lord said, yes, I am living in my answers. Grand finale. NSPPD, 30th August, 2024.
That's the one. And wow, these personal testimonies.
They're really something.
They really are. I mean, going beyond the usual headlines about faith healing, right? We're seeing how belief can really impact people's lives.
Definitely. And I think that's what makes it so interesting.
For sure. For example, there's this woman who prayed for her mother after she was declared clinically dead.
Wow.
And what got me there wasn't just the outcome, but like her whole journey through it.
Right. It's like all the emotions, the hope, and the doubt.
Yeah.
And then she just believes that God intervened.
Yeah.
Even
when it wasn't what she expected.
Exactly.
It just shows that faith, it's not always a straight line.
No, not at all.
And speaking of faith, Pastor Eze really emphasizes persistent prayer in this video.
It's a big part of his message.
It is. He doesn't just say ask once and you're done.
Right. It's about staying connected.
Yes. Even when things seem impossible.
It makes you think, does that persistence, does that make your belief stronger?
That's a great question.
Like take the woman whose husband was in a coma after brain surgery.
Oh, yeah. She's amazing. The doctors even gave a really bad prognosis.
And she still held on to her faith. I mean, she said, what God cannot do does not exist.
Wow.
That's some powerful stuff.
It is. It makes me wonder, is that like absolute certainty, or is she like willing it to happen through believing it so strongly?
It's hard to say for sure.
Yeah. But her husband did wake up.
He did.
And that leads us to all these amazing testimonies about healing.
And this is where things get really interesting. We have Dr. Elisha, a medical professional.
A doctor.
Yeah. And she's asking for divine intervention for her own health.
Think about that for a second. She's a doctor,
Trained in science and medicine?
Exactly. But she turns to faith to heal.
It's fascinating where faith and medicine meet.
It really is. And it's not like she just had like one little thing wrong.
No, she had a whole list.
Stroke, cardiovascular disease, gastrointestinal issues.
She even had a heart bleed.
And coronary artery disease, problems with walking.
She was dealing with a lot.
A lot. And she says she was healed thanks to Pastor Eze's prayers.
She even talks about specific times when she felt things change.
Like when her leg spasms just stopped.
Right out of the blue.
Yeah. And then how the pain from her coronary artery disease just got so much better.
Really makes you think. That connection between mind, body, and belief.
Totally. Especially when you compare how much she struggled before to how healthy and vibrant she is now at 60.
It is quite a contrast.
But her story is just one of many.
So many.
We also heard about the woman who was healed from bipolar disorder and schizophrenia.
Yeah. And then there's the mom whose son overcame his speech delays and those developmental problems.
That one really got to me. She thought it could have been autism.
It's a powerful one for sure.
It really is. There are so many different kinds of stories here. There's even the woman whose cancerous lump vanished after they thought it was just a pimple.
Seriously.
It's wild.
It really makes you stop and think, about what part faith might play.
Especially in those situations that don't have easy explanations.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like these testimonies are saying, hey, don't underestimate the power of belief.
Even when things seem impossible.
Exactly.
It's definitely something to think about. Like, where do we draw that line between what's possible and what's impossible? Especially when you're talking about the human spirit and the mysteries of faith.
It's a big question. And maybe it's one that each listener needs to figure out for themselves.
I think you're right.
Do you just accept these stories as they are? Or do you go deeper and explore the questions they bring up?
About belief, about healing, about how people can change.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole deep dive so interesting, right? It's not just about the stories themselves.
Right.
It's about the big questions they raise.
About faith, about healing, about the power of believing in something.
For sure. And that's something we'll keep unpacking as we go.
Definitely. There's a lot more to explore.
It is.
And I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
It's amazing how Pastor SCA takes all these stories, from different people, and he kind of connects them together.
Yeah.
To make a bigger point.
Yeah. About like God being at work and how people can change and
exactly.
Yeah, how lives can be transformed.
Absolutely. And he's always tying these experiences back to what the Bible says.
That's true.
Like, for instance, he brings up the women in the Bible who were able to bring their dead children back to life.
Oh, right, yeah.
He uses that to say that we're living in a time where God is doing strange and amazing things.
He calls it a revival.
a revival of God's strange acts. It's like he's saying, hey, this isn't something new. This has been happening for a long time.
Throughout history.
Exactly. By connecting these modern-day stories with these old stories from the Bible.
Right.
It just reinforces that idea that these miracles, they're not just random events, you know?
Yeah.
They're part of a pattern. Divine power at work.
And it just adds that layer of authority when you can connect it back to the Bible.
And the historical context, too.
Yeah, for sure. And he does this with faith, too.
Oh, yeah, he quotes Hebrew.
He does. Hebrews 11.1. He's like, now faith is. Like, right now.
It's about believing in this moment.
Then not later.
Not waiting. It ties back to that woman, you know, whose husband woke up from the coma.
Yeah.
Her belief was just so strong, so immediate. She was talking to him.
Right after brain surgery.
Yeah, just hours after. It's almost like she just ignored what the doctors were saying.
With the power of her belief.
That's right.
And it worked. It's really something. I mean, he didn't just wake up. He actually stood up and walked.
Which the doctors said was impossible.
For months.
At least for months, they said.
I know. It's a powerful example of how faith, maybe, can go beyond what we think is humanly possible.
And it's not just about healing. You know, Pastor Eze also talks about financial breakthroughs.
Oh, right. Like how there's this abundance of rain coming for his followers.
Like a season of blessings and prosperity.
That imagery of rain is interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty universal.
It is.
Anyone can relate to it, really.
Whether you're religious or not.
Yeah, because everyone wants abundance, right?
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be well off.
Yeah, for sure. And he backs it up with stories of people who have had financial miracles because of their faith.
He does. But he also talks about some tougher stuff, too, like spiritual warfare.
Right. Overcoming evil forces.
Yeah, the Midianite spirit. He says it tries to mess with people's blessings.
Like steal your harvest.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And he brings up the story of the Midianites from the Bible to illustrate this, this concept.
Yeah, for people who don't know.
Right.
They were this group who would always attack the Israelites.
And take everything they had.
Yeah, kept them from enjoying what they worked for.
So it's like a metaphor.
Right, for the challenges we all face in life.
The things that set us back.
Exactly.
And Pastor Eze is saying that prayer and faith...
Those are the weapons.
Yeah, to fight these Midianite forces.
The things that try to steal our joy, our prosperity, everything.
He's really encouraging his followers to fight back,
To reclaim what's rightfully theirs.
Yeah. And not be afraid, not hide.
He's all about empowerment through faith.
Absolutely. It's not about sitting back and waiting for things to happen. It's about taking action.
And believing that you could overcome anything.
With God's help. And that message is all over the video, isn't it?
Totally.
From the people who were healed to the people who got financial abundance.
It's all about believing in something bigger than yourself.
It's powerful, Even when things seem really tough, faith can give you hope.
And comfort. And the strength to keep going.
For sure. And I love how he ends the video by saying, share your testimony.
Because you never know who needs to hear it.
He says it could be the key to someone else's breakthrough.
It's that idea of paying it forward. Like your story might help someone else who's struggling.
It's about community too, right? Sharing our stories brings us together.
Creates this web of faith and hope.
Yeah. It strengthens those bonds between people. Yeah. And it reinforces that belief that together...
we can get through anything.
Exactly. It's beautiful.
It is.
It's about realizing you're not alone in your struggles.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes hearing someone else's story about how they overcame something...
it can inspire you.
Give you that spark of faith you need to keep going.
To believe in your own miracles.
And Pastor Eze reminds us those miracles can happen.
He does.
After all, what God cannot do
does not exist.
You said it with such conviction.
While we're hearing all these stories, how can you not feel hopeful?
Right. It makes you wonder, in what other ways might belief be working in our lives?
That's a good question. Maybe it's not always these big dramatic healings and miracles.
Maybe it's more subtle than that.
Maybe. Like, think about how a positive attitude can sometimes lead to good things happening.
Yeah.
Is that just luck? Or could it be that believing in a good outcome actually makes it more likely to happen?
Interesting. It's like the self-fulfilling prophecy thing.
Right. If we really believe something.
About ourselves or what we can do or just life in general.
Yeah, it can shape our actions without us even realizing it.
And lead us to that outcome.
Exactly.
So like if you think you're going to do great on a presentation, you'll probably prepare more, be more confident.
And then you actually do well.
And the opposite is true too, right?
Yeah.
If you're scared and doubtful,
it can sabotage you, even if you're totally capable.
It's like our beliefs create this energy,
this momentum
that pushes us in a certain direction.
And it's not just with individuals.
Yeah.
You know, think about the placebo effect.
Oh, yeah. In medicine.
People get better just because they think they're getting a real treatment.
Even if it's just a sugar pill.
Exactly.
It's pretty wild. It really is. Like, our minds have so much power over our bodies.
More than we realize.
I think so. What about, like, on a bigger scale? Collective belief, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
Like social movements, new technology, cultural changes.
All of that starts with people believing in the possibility of something new.
So the civil rights movement came from people believing in human rights.
Right.
And the digital age we're in now is because people believed in the power of the internet.
Exactly. And these big changes, they don't happen overnight. They start with a little seed of belief.
Yeah.
And it spreads from one person to another.
To communities, to whole societies.
Like a domino effect.
Yeah.
One belief sparking another until it's big enough to change the world.
Wow. So then the question is, what are the beliefs we're all holding on to right now that could be limiting us?
Without us even knowing it.
Right. I mean, if our beliefs can really move mountains, like Pastor Eze says,
then we have to be careful about what we're building with our doubts.
That's a powerful thought. I mean, what mountains of limitations are we accidentally creating?
It's a lot to think about.
We're really stretching that idea of what a miracle is, aren't we?
I think so, yeah.
It's not just about these sudden big events anymore.
Right.
It's about how our mindset, like, shapes what we go through every day.
And that brings us back to Pastor Eze's message about money.
Yeah, the financial breakthroughs.
It wasn't just about praying for a windfall.
No, it was about changing your whole mindset.
About abundance. About believing that you deserve good things.
Makes you think about those two different mindsets, right? Scarcity versus abundance.
Big difference.
If you're always afraid there's not enough to go around,
it holds you back.
Limits what you'll try, what opportunities you'll go for.
Totally. But when you believe in abundance, in all the possibilities out there,
you're more likely to take chances.
To go after things you might have thought were out of reach.
And who knows what might happen then.
Right. Exactly. It's like that saying, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Our beliefs, they really can become self-fulfilling prophecies.
Not just in some spiritual sense.
Yeah, but in our everyday lives.
Totally. And that's why these testimonies, even if you're not sure what to make of them, they still teach us something valuable.
What's that?
Belief is powerful.
Okay.
It can change things, heal things, help you grow, even achieve things that seem impossible.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Pastor Eze's message and all these stories,
what's the big takeaway?
What have we learned?
Maybe it's a call to look at our own beliefs.
The ones we might not even know we have.
Exactly. Are they helping us or holding us back?
Are we open to miracles?
Big or small?
Or have we shut ourselves off to them?
It's something to think about for sure.
It really is. And maybe it's not about believing everything you hear.
No.
But being curious. Open to new ideas.
To the possibility that there's more to the world than we understand.
Because maybe, just maybe, if we're willing to believe,
then we might just experience our own miracles.
Whatever those miracles might be.
Exactly.
Well, to the listener who shared this video with us,
thank you.
Seriously, thank you. This has been amazing.
It has.
A real deep dive into the power of faith, how strong the human spirit can be.
And that incredible potential we all have inside us.
Just waiting to be unlocked.